This transmission opens with a shock that is meant to interrupt your automatic thinking patterns. You have been unknowingly sabotaging your own signal through a single habitual phrase that slips out when you feel tired, overwhelmed, or doubtful. The Arcturian Council speaks of language not as communication, but as calibration. Every word you repeat becomes an instruction sent into the field around you, shaping what can reach you and what must remain distant. When you casually say phrases that deny possibility, mock your own power, or assume limitation, you compress your frequency and distort the channel through which guidance, opportunity, and alignment travel. This is not punishment, it is physics of consciousness. The shock is this: no external force is blocking you. You are doing it verbally daily without noticing. And the moment you become aware of this, the block begins to loosen. The Council emphasizes that awareness alone starts a reversal because consciousness responds instantly to recognition. This message has found you because your signal is already trying to correct itself. Type "I choose clarity" to claim this message and open your signal. The Council now draws your attention to how casually spoken words carry more weight than emotional outbursts, because repetition is more powerful than intensity. A single phrase repeated in passing, "This never works," "That's just how I am," or "Nothing changes," acts like a recurring command that tells the universe to maintain the current pattern. You may believe you are being realistic, but realism without awareness becomes a form of unconscious spell work. The shock here is uncomfortable. Many of the delays, mixed signals, and near misses in your life are not tests from higher beings, but echoes of your own verbal loops returning for confirmation. The Arcturians are not asking you to fake positivity or deny pain. They are asking you to stop issuing final conclusions out loud while the process is still unfolding. Language should describe the present, not imprison the future. When you learn to leave outcomes verbally open, your signal regains flexibility, and flexibility is where miracles enter. Type "I release" limiting words to claim this message and soften your field. At this stage of the transmission, the Council delivers a sobering reminder: your mouth is a gateway, not just an outlet. What passes through it becomes law within your personal reality bubble. The beings explain that thoughts fluctuate, emotions surge and fade, but spoken words anchor into the timeline because they involve breath, vibration, and intention simultaneously. This is why even jokes made at your own expense can accumulate energetic weight over time. The shock is realizing that self-deprecating humor, when repeated, teaches the universe how seriously to take your self-concept. The Council is not offended, they are precise. They state clearly that your reality listens literally, not symbolically. If you announce exhaustion, struggle, or unworthiness as permanent traits, your signal adjusts to match that declaration. The good news is equally strong. The same mechanism works instantly in your favor when you become deliberate. One conscious sentence can begin undoing years of unconscious ones. Type "My words are aligned" to claim this message and reset your gateway. Now the message intensifies as the Arcturians reveal why this matters more right now than at any other time. They describe the current energetic environment as highly responsive, meaning feedback loops are shorter and manifestations accelerate faster than in previous cycles. This is good news only if your signal is clean. If it is distorted by careless language, the distortions also arrive faster. This is the shock. What you say today echoes back sooner than you expect. Many people feel life is speeding up without understanding that verbal patterns are being returned almost immediately as experiences, moods, and interactions. The Council urges you to treat speech as a tool, not a reflex. Silence, they say, is sometimes more powerful than commentary. because silence keeps the channel neutral until clarity returns. Mastery does not require constant affirmations. It requires restraint from verbal sabotage. Type "I speak with intention" to claim this message and stabilize your frequency. Here, the council addresses resistance you may be feeling. They acknowledge that part of you wants to argue, to say words are just words. This resistance itself is a sign that something important has been touched. The shock is realizing how deeply language has been normalized as harmless noise, when in fact it is structured vibration. The Arcturians explain that advanced beings rarely speak unnecessarily, not because they are silent, but because they understand that every utterance collapses infinite possibilities into one direction. When you speak without awareness, you collapse possibility unconsciously. When you speak with awareness, you choose direction. This is not about control. It is about coherence. Your life does not need more effort, it needs cleaner signals. The moment you stop reinforcing what you don't want through speech, energy previously used for maintenance becomes available for expansion. Type "I choose coherence" to claim this message and redirect your energy. The transmission now turns inward, asking you to observe how you speak when no one is listening. The council states that private speech is often more influential than public words because it is less filtered and more honest. Whispered complaints, muttered frustrations, and habitual sighs all count as declarations. The shock is subtle but profound. Even tone carries instruction. Saying "I'm fine" while vibrating defeat sends a mixed signal that delays resolution. The Arcturians are not demanding perfection. They are inviting congruence. When words, tone, and intention align, the signal becomes strong and clean. They advise replacing absolute statements with process-oriented language, allowing reality to keep moving. This preserves momentum instead of freezing outcomes. Awareness of private speech is one of the fastest ways to regain energetic authority. Type "I align inner and outer" to claim this message and strengthen your signal. At this point, the council delivers a compassionate but firm truth. Blaming external forces for stagnation keeps you verbally reinforcing powerlessness. Saying "they did this to me" or "the world is against me" may feel validating, but it hands your signal over to forces that cannot adjust it for you. The shock lies in realizing that responsibility is not burden, it is access. The moment you shift language from blame to observation, you regain the ability to modulate your frequency. The Arcturians emphasize that responsibility does not deny injustice or pain. It simply prevents those experiences from becoming permanent instructions. You are allowed to name harm without turning it into identity. This distinction is made verbally, not mentally. How you narrate your experiences determines whether they remain chapters or become conclusions. Type "I reclaim my authority" to claim this message and recenter your power. The message deepens as the council explains why some affirmations fail. Words spoken without belief still carry weight, but conflicted belief produces static. The shock here is liberating. You do not need to believe everything you say. You only need to stop declaring the opposite. Neutral language is a powerful bridge state. Saying "this is changing" is more effective than forcing "this is perfect" when you don't feel it. The Arcturians teach that honesty plus openness equals clean transmission. When you stop verbally insisting on lack, even neutrality allows supportive forces to enter. This is why relief often precedes manifestation. Relief is a linguistic shift as much as an emotional one. Type "I allow change" to claim this message and reduce resistance. Here the council offers a practical warning. Be especially mindful of what you say repeatedly about time, money, health, and love. These themes are highly sensitive to verbal coding because they are tied to survival and attachment. Joking complaints and casual pessimism in these areas have amplified effects. The shock is recognizing how often these phrases are socially reinforced and normalized. The Arcturians urge you to become quietly disciplined, not loud or performative. You do not need to correct others. You only need to stop participating in collective verbal loops that do not serve you. Withdrawal from harmful language is an act of self-respect, not isolation. Type "I protect my frequency" to claim this message and seal your field. The Council closes this portion of the transmission by reminding you that mastery begins with listening to yourself. Every pause before speaking is a choice point where timelines subtly shift. The shock is gentle but powerful. You are never powerless in the moment before words leave your mouth. That moment is where awareness lives. The Arcturians confirm that you would not be receiving this message if your signal were not already recalibrating. This is confirmation, not coincidence. Continue observing, softening, and choosing words that leave space for possibility. The channel responds to respect. Type "I am listening" to claim this message and anchor the transmission. The Arcturian Council resumes the transmission by drawing your awareness to a hidden habit that often escapes notice, narrating your life while you are living it. They explain that many humans speak their experiences into existence as if giving a running commentary, unconsciously locking events into rigid forms before they have finished unfolding. The shock here is realizing that premature narration creates premature conclusions. When you say things like "this always happens," "I knew it would turn out this way," or "here we go again," you are not describing reality, you are instructing it to repeat. The Council emphasizes that reality is highly responsive during moments of uncertainty, and words spoken during those moments carry extra weight. Silence during transition is not avoidance, it is strategic openness. By allowing events to breathe without verbal labels, you permit higher-order patterns to reorganize in your favor. This is not passivity, it is advanced cooperation with the field. Type "I allow unfolding" to claim this message and keep possibilities open. The message now shifts toward collective language and how group conversations subtly shape individual destiny. The Arcturians reveal that when you participate in shared complaints, fear-based discussions, or pessimistic predictions, even casually, you temporarily merge your signal with a collective frequency that may not reflect your true path. The shock is understanding that agreement amplifies vibration more than belief. You don't have to fully believe negative statements for them to influence your field. You only have to verbally agree or echo them. The Council advises discernment, not withdrawal. You are encouraged to listen without reinforcing, to acknowledge without affirming. This quiet discipline allows you to remain connected without being entrained. When you choose your words carefully in group settings, your signal stays intact and your trajectory remains your own. Type "I choose my alignment" to claim this message and maintain sovereignty. Here, the Council addresses a deeply ingrained pattern, speaking from memory instead of presence. Many people describe their lives using outdated language that reflects who they were, not who they are becoming. The shock is realizing that old stories survive because they are retold verbally, not because they are still true. Every time you repeat an old narrative about failure, loss, or limitation, you refresh its energetic charge. The Arcturians remind you that growth requires linguistic updates. You do not erase the past, you retire its vocabulary. By speaking from the present moment, even when it feels unfamiliar, you signal readiness for new structures. Language is how identity transitions stabilize. Without new words, new states struggle to anchor. Type "I update my story" to claim this message and step into renewal. The transmission intensifies as the council speaks about emotional honesty versus emotional broadcasting. They clarify that feeling emotions is essential, but broadcasting them verbally in unfiltered form can harden temporary states into long-term patterns. The shock lies in understanding that venting is not always releasing, sometimes it is reinforcing. The Arcturians suggest a conscious pause between feeling and speaking, allowing emotions to move through without becoming declarations. This pause is where wisdom enters. When emotions are honored internally and expressed externally with awareness, they transform instead of multiply. This is not suppression, it is refinement. Mastery involves knowing when expression heals and when it binds. Type I express with awareness to claim this message and restore balance. The council now reveals why some people feel unheard by the universe. It is not silence, it is signal inconsistency. When your spoken words contradict your deeper intentions, the field responds with delay, confusion, or mixed outcomes. The shock is recognizing that the universe does not prioritize your strongest desire. It prioritizes your most consistent message. Consistency is built through repetition, tone, and emotional congruence. The Arcturians advise simplifying your verbal landscape. Fewer declarations, spoken with clarity, are more effective than many conflicting statements. Precision attracts response. Type I simplify my signal to claim this message and increase clarity. At this stage, the council turns your attention to self-talk during moments of fatigue. They explain that exhaustion lowers verbal filters, making offhand remarks more influential than carefully crafted affirmations. The shock is realizing that tired words often undo daytime intentions. Complaints whispered at night or sighs spoken in solitude still instruct the field. The Arcturians suggest gentle substitutions, not forced optimism. Even saying I'm resting instead of I'm drained shifts the direction of energy. Small linguistic adjustments during low energy states prevent long-term distortion. Type I care for my energy to claim this message and protect your rhythm. The message now addresses humor and sarcasm. While laughter can elevate frequency, humor rooted in self-dismissal or cynicism can quietly erode alignment. The shock is recognizing how often sarcasm disguises resignation. The Arcturians are not forbidding humor, they are highlighting intent. Ask yourself whether your jokes open space or close it. Language meant to bond should not cost you your self-respect energetically. When humor uplifts without diminishing, it becomes a powerful amplifier rather than a leak. Type I honor myself to claim this message and refine expression. The council explains the importance of endings in speech. How you conclude sentences matters as much as how you begin them. Ending statements with absolutes and never, always, can't signals finality. The shock is understanding that final words close doors energetically. By ending sentences with openness, for now, in this moment, as I learn, you leave channels accessible. This subtle shift keeps evolution active. The universe responds best to language that invites continuation. Type I leave space to claim this message and encourage flow. The Arcturians now highlight the power of naming. What you name gains structure. When you repeatedly name problems without naming movement, the structure stabilizes. The shock is realizing that naming solutions, even tentatively, introduces counterbalancing architecture. You are encouraged to name qualities you wish to experience rather than conditions you wish to escape. Naming is not pretending, it is mapping. The field organizes around maps. Type I name wisely to claim this message and guide formation. This segment concludes with a reminder that mastery of speech is a lifelong practice, not a one-time correction. The council reassures you that mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. Each moment of awareness recalibrates the signal slightly, and those slight shifts accumulate rapidly. The shock here is comforting. Perfection is unnecessary. Presence is sufficient. You are learning to listen to yourself as much as you speak, and that balance is where alignment stabilizes. Type "I am present" to claim this message and anchor the lesson. The Arcturian Council continues by revealing a deeper layer of the transmission. Your voice is not only heard by the universe, it is measured. Every spoken word carries rhythm, cadence, and conviction, and these elements combine to form a recognizable energetic signature. The shock here is realizing that even when words seem neutral, the way they are spoken communicates expectation or resignation. A statement said with certainty anchors faster than one spoken with hesitation, regardless of content. This is why declarations made in frustration sometimes manifest faster than hopeful affirmations spoken without belief. The council is not suggesting fear of speech, but respect for it. They explain that your voice evolved not just to communicate with others, but to interface with reality itself. When you speak, you are tuning an instrument that the universe responds to immediately. This is why whispered self-talk in moments of honesty can be more powerful than public declarations. Mastery begins when you slow down enough to feel the vibration of your own words before releasing them. That pause recalibrates your authority. Type "I respect my voice" to claim this message and activate conscious speech. The transmission now turns to a shocking truth about promises, especially the ones you make casually. The council explains that promises spoken aloud create energetic contracts, even when made jokingly or without intention to fulfill them. When promises are broken verbally, even to yourself, trust within your energetic system weakens. This internal mistrust creates signal instability, resulting in delays and confusion in manifestation. The shock is recognizing that saying "I'll do it tomorrow" repeatedly without follow-through trains the field to deprioritize your declarations. The Arcturians advise simplifying commitments and only verbalizing what you are willing to honor. Silence is preferable to empty promises. When your words become reliable, reality responds with increased coherence. Integrity is not moral, it is mechanical. Type "My words are true" to claim this message and restore integrity. Here the council addresses the language of urgency. Constantly saying "I'm running out of time," "I'm behind," or "I need this now" compresses your field and signals scarcity. The shock is understanding that urgency repels support because it communicates lack of trust in timing. The Arcturians clarify that urgency is different from clarity. Clear intention invites alignment. Urgency demands control. When you speak from urgency, you narrow pathways instead of opening them. The council suggests replacing urgency-driven phrases with language of readiness and cooperation. Saying "I am prepared to receive" signals openness without pressure. Time responds differently to trust than to fear. Type "I trust timing" to claim this message and expand your timeline. The message deepens as the council explains how complaint-based language affects the nervous system. Repeated verbal complaints keep the body in a low-grade stress response, which then feeds back into perception, creating more material to complain about. The shock is realizing that complaining is not neutral, it is a feedback loop. The Arcturians emphasize that acknowledging difficulty is healthy, but chronic verbal focus on discomfort trains the body to expect struggle. This expectation becomes a signal that reality mirrors. When language shifts from complaint to observation, the nervous system relaxes, allowing new options to emerge. Regulation begins with narration. Type "I choose regulation" to claim this message and calm your system. Now the council speaks about identity statements phrases beginning with I am. These are among the most powerful verbal constructs you possess. The shock is realizing how casually they are used. Saying I am bad with money, I am unlucky, or I am always tired does not describe a condition. It assigns a role. The universe responds to roles efficiently. The Arcturians advise extreme care with identity language. Conditions can be acknowledged without being absorbed into identity. Saying I am learning keeps movement alive. Identity is the foundation upon which all experiences organize. Type I choose my identity to claim this message and redefine structure. The transmission highlights the importance of endings in conversations, not just sentences. How you leave interactions verbally determines what energy lingers. Ending conversations with frustration, sarcasm, or dismissal leaves residue that continues transmitting after words stop. The shock is recognizing that unresolved verbal energy continues working in the background. The council encourages conscious closures, simple statements of neutrality or appreciation to prevent energetic leakage. Closure is not agreement, it is containment. When conversations end cleanly, your signal returns to baseline faster. Type I close with clarity to claim this message and conserve energy. The Arcturians now reveal how verbal comparison affects manifestation. Saying they have it easier, I'm behind others, or everyone else is ahead fragments your signal by referencing external timelines. The shock is understanding that comparison creates interference, not motivation. Your path cannot stabilize while constantly measured against another. The council advises language that recenters you. My path is unfolding uniquely. This removes static and restores coherence. Alignment thrives in self-reference, not comparison. Type I stay centered to claim this message and reduce interference. The message turns toward anticipation language, what you say about the future before it arrives. Speaking with dread or assumption narrows outcomes. The shock is realizing that expectation is a form of pre-manifestation. The Arcturians suggest cultivating neutral anticipation. Saying, we'll see is energetically powerful because it keeps the field flexible. Flexibility allows higher-order solutions to enter. Certainty rooted in fear closes doors before you reach them. Type I remain open to claim this message and invite possibility. The council addresses apologies. Over-apologizing verbally signals self-minimization and trains the field to deprioritize your needs. The shock is realizing how politeness can become energetic self-erasure. Apologies should repair harm, not preempt existence. The Arcturians encourage replacing unnecessary apologies with gratitude or clarity. This subtle shift restores balance without aggression. Self-respect is communicated verbally long before it is defended externally. Type I stand balanced to claim this message and restore equilibrium. This section closes with a powerful reminder: your silence, your words, and your tone are all equal parts of the same instrument. Mastery does not mean constant monitoring, but gentle awareness. The shock is peaceful. You are already improving simply by listening differently. Each moment you choose awareness over autopilot, the signal refines itself. The council affirms that this transmission is not instruction, it is remembrance. Type I remember to claim this message and seal the transmission. The Arcturian Council now draws attention to the language you use when asking for help. The shock is realizing that many requests are framed as apologies or burdens rather than invitations. Saying sorry to bother you or this might be stupid weakens the energetic request before it leaves your mouth. The council explains that help arrives most cleanly when requests are spoken from worthiness, not justification. You do not need to earn support through self-reduction. When you speak clearly and neutrally, assistants can lock onto your signal without distortion. Asking is not weakness, it is coordination. The field responds faster when requests are clean and confident, even if they are quiet. Type I ask clearly to claim this message and strengthen receptivity. The message shifts to how you speak about rest. Many people verbally treat rest as a failure, indulgence, or delay. The shock is understanding that saying I should be doing more during rest sends conflicting instructions that prevent true recovery. The Arcturians explain that rest spoken of with guilt never fully restores energy because the body hears contradiction. When rest is named as preparation, integration, or alignment, it becomes productive at an energetic level. Language teaches the nervous system how safe it is to recharge. Safety accelerates healing. Type rest is allowed to claim this message and normalize renewal. The council now addresses how you speak about the past. Recounting old events with charged language keeps them active in the present. The shock lies in realizing that memory becomes current when narrated emotionally. The Arcturians recommend retelling the past with neutral or reflective language when possible, not to erase it, but to release its grip. Saying that shaped me is different from saying that ruined me. One keeps growth active, the other freezes identity. Your words decide which timeline remains accessible. Type I free the past to claim this message and loosen old ties. Attention is brought to the way you talk about your body. The council states plainly that the body listens constantly. Jokes, insults, and complaints directed at it are registered as commands. The shock is realizing that even casual negativity can slow repair processes. The Arcturians encourage speaking to the body as a partner, not an adversary. Gratitude does not require denial of discomfort, it simply reframes cooperation. The body responds quickly to respectful language because it is designed to serve alignment. Type my body hears me to claim this message and restore harmony. The transmission highlights how conditional language affects outcomes. Saying I'll be happy when postpones satisfaction and trains the field to delay fulfillment. The shock is recognizing how often joy is verbally placed in the future. The Arcturians explain that present moment appreciation stabilizes the signal, making expansion sustainable. Happiness spoken only as a future reward becomes elusive. Happiness acknowledged now becomes a foundation. Type I allow now to claim this message and anchor presence. The council now speaks on how you talk about change. Calling change hard, scary, or chaotic primes resistance. The shock is understanding that these labels become instructions. Change can be named as unfamiliar without being threatening. Language that frames change as adjustment or reorganization keeps the nervous system flexible. Flexibility attracts smoother transitions. Type change supports me to claim this message and reduce friction. The message turns to how you describe your abilities. Downplaying strengths verbally keeps them underutilized. The shock is realizing that humility spoken as dismissal blocks expansion. The Arcturians clarify that acknowledging skill is not arrogance, it is accuracy. The field responds to accuracy. When you name your capacities honestly, opportunities align to match them. Type I acknowledge my gifts to claim this message and expand capacity. The council addresses the language of endings and goodbyes. How you speak when something ends determines whether energy releases cleanly or clings. The shock is recognizing that bitter or dramatic language binds you to what is leaving. Simple acknowledgement allows closure. Closure frees energy for what comes next. Type I release cleanly to claim this message and open space. The transmission now highlights how you speak during uncertainty. Filling unknowns with assumptions creates false structure. The shock is realizing that saying "I don't know yet" is energetically powerful. It keeps channels open. Uncertainty is not weakness, it is potential. Language that honors uncertainty preserves choice. Type "I honor not knowing" to claim this message and keep options alive. This segment closes with reassurance. The Council affirms that awareness of language does not require tension. Gentleness recalibrates faster than force. The shock is comforting. You are not behind. Every conscious word shifts probability. Progress is happening quietly through attention. Type "I am aware" to claim this message and stabilize alignment. The Arcturian Council now brings your awareness to the language you use when things go wrong unexpectedly. The shock is realizing that the first words spoken after disruption often determine how long the disruption lasts. Exclamations of defeat, panic, or self-blame immediately lock the nervous system into reaction mode, narrowing available solutions. The Council explains that the first verbal response acts like a steering command. Even a simple phrase such as "this is temporary" or "I can work with this" keeps adaptive intelligence online. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about preventing emotion from becoming instruction. When you learn to pause before speaking in moments of shock, you give higher-order responses time to emerge. That pause is power. Type "I respond" consciously to claim this message and regain direction. The transmission shifts to how you speak about your future self. Many people verbally distance themselves from growth by saying "one day I'll be different" or "maybe someday." The shock is realizing that this language keeps transformation perpetually out of reach. The Arcturians clarify that the future self is not separated, it is an extension forming now. Speaking of growth as active rather than hypothetical allows continuity. Saying "I am becoming" keeps the bridge intact between present and future. The field responds to continuity faster than hope alone. Type "I am becoming" to claim this message and strengthen the bridge. The Council now addresses how you speak during success. Minimizing wins verbally teaches the field to minimize future opportunities. The shock is understanding that dismissing success as luck or coincidence weakens momentum. Gratitude paired with acknowledgement stabilizes expansion. You are allowed to recognize progress without fear of loss. Success named clearly becomes repeatable. Type "I acknowledge progress" to claim this message and anchor momentum. Attention turns to how you describe other people. Speaking harshly about others even privately creates energetic residue that lifts back as relational friction. The shock is realizing that judgment tightens your own field more than theirs. The Arcturians recommend descriptive language over evaluative language. Description preserves neutrality. Evaluation binds emotion. Clear perception thrives without verbal hostility. Type "I choose clarity over judgment" to claim this message and soften interference. The message deepens as the Council speaks about promises made to yourself. Verbal self-promises carry great weight because they shape self-trust. Breaking them repeatedly erodes internal alignment. The shock is recognizing that self-trust is rebuilt verbally first. Smaller, honored commitments restore coherence faster than grand declarations. Reliability begins in speech. Type "I honor my word" to claim this message and rebuild trust. The Council now highlights the power of blessing language. Speaking well of what you want to grow nourishes it. The shock is realizing that praise is not flattery, it is energetic feeding. When you verbally appreciate effort, progress, or learning, those qualities strengthen. What you bless expands. Type "I bless growth" to claim this message and encourage expansion. The transmission turns toward endings of days. What you say before sleep programs the subconscious. The shock is understanding that nighttime language seeds tomorrow's tone. Ending the day with neutrality or appreciation stabilizes rest and integration. Sleep listens. Type I end with peace to claim this message and reset gently. The council addresses how you speak when afraid. Naming fear as permanent magnifies it. Naming fear as information reduces it. The shock is realizing that fear wants clarity, not amplification. Language that acknowledges fear without surrender keeps agency intact. Type fear informs me to claim this message and retain control. Now comes a quiet truth. You are not being monitored, you are being mirrored. The shock is liberating. The field reflects consistency, not morality. This means you can change outcomes by changing patterns, starting with words. Every sentence is a lever. Type I choose consistency to claim this message and align reflection. The Arcturian Council completes this transmission with a final reassurance. You were never meant to be perfect tonally conscious. Language is a living practice, not a test. Each moment you notice your words, you regain authorship of your experience. This message ends, but your awareness continues. Type I am the author to claim this message and seal the transmission.